What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Steelhead Alley Podcast. I'm Kyle, and as always, I've got my co-host Zack here with me. And in episode 5, we're talking all about that pre-trip planning as you gear up for your first steelhead trip of the season. We'll break down how we monitor weather, track temps, and watch flows to find that perfect fishy window. We will dive into the physical prep, from layering for cold, wet conditions to choosing the right gear and storage to keep you comfortable on the water all day. There's a lot that goes into these trips, so we decided to split this one into 2 parts. In part 2, we'll dive deeper into the gear setups, fly selection, and how we adjust to changing conditions once we're out there. We will also get into the mental side, the night before routines, hotel prep, and that early morning anticipation before stepping onto the stream. From the planning to the prep and everything in between, it's all about the process when you're chasing chrome across Steelhead Alley. We've got a good one for you, so now, let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Episode 5, Steelhead Alley Podcast, and we're getting into the Steelhead prep, planning for the trip. We got our first trip coming up here in a couple weeks. We've been alluding to it in our last episode. So now we're going to talk about the process, the preparation, the weeks leading up to it, checking flows, planning out where we want to go, time flies, getting our gear together, you name it. So going through the gamut today, what we do, what our process is. There's a lot to it. Zach, what's up, man? Welcome back. How we doing?
Good. Just like you said, a couple weeks till we go. So now we're really starting to take a good look at what the future forecasts are, putting a lot of time in on the Vice, just prepping in all facets that we can to try and set ourselves up for success.
You know, we're 5-6 hours away. When you're out there all day, that far from home, you want to make sure you have everything prepared, ready to rock, backup plans, backup gear, and we're going to go through it today. What our process is, the little nuances that we've built up over time, whether we've brought things in from trout fishing, just winter fishing in general. We're getting jazzed up. We finally got some rain, more rain in the forecast, which is even better. So we're getting excited. So this episode's coming out at a perfect time.
I think this is a topic that can get overlooked. If you don't look into these things and you don't prep on one end or another, it can make or break your trip. If you could do all the fly tying you want and have all that stuff prep and have all the base layers you want, but if you don't have flows and you didn't check them and you get up there and it's kind of shitty, you're stuck now. So having plan A, B, C, and having things to fall back on can help your success. So it's a good topic to talk about, I think. It's a lot of little tiny details that maybe seem minute, but it could make or break your whole experience.
And to that point, a lot of minute details that we've tweaked over the years where, you know, you have an idea of how to stay warm or you have an idea of how many flies you think you might need, but then it comes into even more minor details like appropriate layers, going thinner but staying warm, but still being flexible in your feet, in your wading boots. Certain colors that we've added to our flies, it's a lot of detail, but it's also been a lot of time put in. And then as trout fishermen, we're always monitoring flows, checking CFS levels. We're always checking gauges, and with steelhead that's even more crucial, right? Not only do you need water to push fish into the streams, but you need water to get drifts. You need water to spread people out, spread fish out, spread people out. And then it can go the other way. You got your weekend planned and you don't have much flexibility, which a lot of people our age, you know, in that prime of our life. And so we set our weekends months in advance. We have some backup weekends this year, which gives us a little more flexibility. But, you know, if a snowstorm hits or it's just going to downpour all weekend, depending on how much rain and when it's hitting, that's going to change your trip. So even up to the day before, 2 days before, there's been times on a Monday we're geared up, ready to go, and by Wednesday, snowstorm's hitting and we have to cancel our trip because they're calling for 2 feet of lake effect snow. So that stuff can hit fast and it can change your trip and your plans very quickly. So let's talk about weather and conditions and leading up. And you know me, I'm borderline obsessed with that stuff. I basically text all of you guys when we get rain, when we get clothes.
Yeah.
I think I look at it as I'm almost talking to myself, but instead of talking to myself, I'm just going to send out texts to my steelhead buddies.
You don't think you're crazy then, you're not just talking to yourself all the time.
Exactly. So what's the difference in monitoring these flows versus our trout stream flows? Some little details that make the difference up here when you think about it.
Honestly, that's a really good question. I would say we could agree that I'm not the best person for this because I'll fish almost anything until it's not fishable. Everybody else's version of blown out is usually not mine. I can usually stretch that out a little farther. And then also, if it is too low, like a trout stream, if it's too low or too warm, I'm just not going to go. But given I only have so much time to go steelheading, I guess if it's going to be bad, you'd rather it be low because you could still go and try to find something. If it's going to be blown out for a while, then it's just unfishable at that point, then that can ruin it. So I don't want it to be low and clear because, again, if there's going to be fish anywhere, they're going to be easy to find and everybody's going to find them and you're going to be fighting people. So the main difference is like I'd rather it be a little blown out for trout fishing on my streams, whereas we're only there a certain amount of time. We're only there for a certain amount of days. The tribs we're fishing are relatively small. But I don't know, man, because they clear up quick too, though, right? I guess that's what you're getting at. They clear up quick. So it could be unfishable in the morning, and by midday, it could be fishable.
That was one of the biggest things that I was thinking about, and I knew you'd get there.
Yeah, it took me a little bit.
And I think to your point, the flexibility of having thicker water on a trout stream is easier. One, we know those waters more navigable in a sense. And let's kind of go back to you were talking about low and clear. I think to your point, a lot of times if it's low and clear on a trout stream, it's because it's summer, right? It's lack of rain. And steelhead, if it's low and clear, yes, it's going to be very tough fishing, getting a good drift, all that stuff. But you will be able to find fish. Other people will be able to find fish, but you'll be able to find fish faster, so you can kind of skip and move quicker. And it's winter, so the water's cold, so we're not worried about hurting the fish. So at least you have that benefit. So you have this opportunity where if it does get low and clear, early winter, late winter, at least the fish are in good temps, so you're good there. You run into the whole challenge of those fish being seen and getting beat up more, but different conversation, different day. If you do have a lot of rainfall, or if you're worried about a heavy rainfall coming, unlike our trout streams in Pennsylvania, our limestone, our spring feds have water always pumping into them, right? They are keeping up their flows in some capacity. We still have some wildly low fall water levels right now, but they still have flowing water. Whereas up in Erie, on those tributaries, slate bottoms, we'll talk about, that when we get into gear and stuff and walking on that slate. So that water a lot of it just rushes down, and it rushes right into the lake, and they clear twice as fast. Honestly, there's a couple tribs up there. If you do your research, you have opportunities. There's tributaries that clear in like 6 hours. They can be absolutely blown out, and you can get on them and fish decent water in 6 hours. A lot of the tributaries that we fish, I've seen them clear in 12 hours in a day easily. It depends on how much rain they get. We just got a bunch of rain up there. Thank goodness. If you check the gauges on the streams, even the big water, they're still dropping insanely fast. If you got nasty weather coming, or if you got patches of rain coming in and out, patches of rain aren't going to do that much up there. But if you have heavy rain for hours that are going to bump those levels, you can really count on those creeks dropping back down, where you can still save your weekend and still catch fish.
I guess the long and the short of it is that the rain isn't so much going to be the detriment up there, depending on how it's timed, right? If it times up right and we get rain, if it happens to rain while you're there, maybe an unexpected rain and it blows out a little bit, there's still a good chance you're going to be able to get on some water while you're there and have fishable water. What's going to be your detriment up there is the snow, is the lake effect snow and the heavy snow that can come. You can have all the 4-wheel drive you want, but if there's 2 feet, it's going to be rough going. If we're going to not go, it's going to be because of the snow, because of just how far we're traveling. We're traveling a ways. We don't want to get stuck there. You just don't want to get caught in that situation. If we're being frank, it's going to take a lot for us not to go. We can usually navigate that stuff and have confidence we can figure it out, or at least have somewhere to go, somewhere to try. That's worth it.
Yeah, I think the challenges are, like you said, when it comes to the lake effect snow, they can get a couple feet quick. And then not only are you stuck there, but it goes even deeper with trying to fish. Then parking's more limited if they aren't clearing out parking spaces. So just accessing the creek, wading and walking through 2 feet of snow is a lot of work.
Yeah.
You can be down by the water and it's not going to be as bad if you're skimming the streams, but you're going to be in and out of that snow on the banks, on the sides, and it's going to be tough sledding. So you do add a lot of elements to it aside from the dangers of the weather. Pouring the whole weekend, there's a very good chance you'll still be able to fish and be successful. And that kind of goes to having a plan and having a backup plan, an A, B, and C plan. If a stream is icy or if it is blown out, there's a lot of times streams are getting hit differently. There might be a patch of rain in Pennsylvania of Erie. It might not have hit in New York's part of Erie. So having those tributaries, that stream knowledge can really pay off too, right? Having multiple plans and backup plans. So if we're up there and we know weather could be challenging in terms of rain or something like that, we have our streams dialed in up there. When we're talking about gauges and monitoring levels, we have prime zones. All the streams that we fish, I know exactly where I want them to be in a range. And I know if it's above that, I'll be like, well, this is fishable, but in probably 6 hours, it's going to be even better. Or if we are going to this stream, it's it's kind of low, but if they get a little rain, it's going to jump up really fast. And so we can use that information and see those numbers on those gauges and say A stream is prime, we are going there tomorrow, and then we can play that by ear after that if we want to go to B stream or C stream. Or again, same concept. If we wake up in the morning and all of a sudden rain hit or snow fell and we check the gauges and those levels bumped, but some streams rise slower or faster or vice versa, and we can be okay, A stream bumped a lot higher than we wanted it to or didn't expect it to. We'll go to B stream and start here, and then in 6 hours, A stream might be prime again, and we're good to go there. So having that flexibility in relation to where we want those stream levels, that cubic feet per second per stream is huge, right? Knowing exactly where you want those streams is big. So we've been talking about flows and gauges. You want to move into wind because wind is big in fishing, but up there it's different, right? So as we're monitoring our gauges and streams have certain numbers, a range of 20, 30, 40 CFS is the big thing that we're primarily looking at, right? But we also look at wind. So when we're thinking about wind, it's always a big deal when it comes to fly fishing, especially. We've been in some windy days and it is challenging. Same concept applies up there, but you have opportunities to avoid it, but it can also push off that lake. That's that lake effect concept.
So I guess wind is something that, like, yeah, I'm going to think about and I'm going to monitor. And if I see it's blowing above 15 mile an hour, we're talking 20 miles an hour. If we're fishing a more urban setting, which can happen, when I say urban, not in the middle of a town, but we're not really in a mountain anywhere. We're kind of tributary that's just like close to an urban setting. So you don't have a lot of those wind blockers. So maybe that would change my mindset or all of our mindsets on, like, all right, maybe we don't start there if it's really huffing, because wind can cripple you quick. The wind can cut through all your layers and it can make you cold fast. If it's 30 degrees out and 20, 30 mile an hour winds, it's going to be colder than 5 mile an hour winds in 0 degree weather. It's going to feel cold. Just something about being up there, that wind coming off that lake, it just being more north, you're not used to it. It can be brutal. So my mind just switches to, we'll try and figure out somewhere we can get down into a big gully, into a gorge somewhere. When you get, the gorge is bending and turning, and depending on the direction of the wind, wherever it's coming, you can get around a corner and kind of hide from it, and it'll dull it down a little bit. Whereas if you're in one of those more open streams with not a lot of cover, not a lot of trees, not a lot of mountain range around, you're just going to be more susceptible to it. Having options in places like that where we can kind of get down into a ravine somewhere and use those mountains ranges to our advantage to try and just have more fishing time, spend more time in the water, not spend time trying to warm up. Again, it can cripple you there, especially if you don't have the layers for it.
Yep, and we'll talk about layers here in a little bit. But not only can it cripple you in terms of being cold, like bone chilling cold, especially like your extremities, right? Your nose, your fingers, your cheeks, because your fingers are already wet, they're already exposed from fishing, and then that ice cold wind can really get you. It can also be extremely challenging to fly fish if the wind is really heavy. So just even getting in that gorge, like you said, in that ravine, there's water up there that it has S turns and has those big bends. You hit that corner and all of a sudden that wind's almost gone sometimes.
Yeah.
So it can be a big difference up there with those deep gorges, with those walls, those bends in the rivers. There's been times where we've literally walked out of our hotel rooms, geared up, ready to go, and it is way windier and colder because of that wind than you would anticipate. Don't let that deter you. You have opportunities. You can find water that you can shield yourself, you can protect yourself and not freeze from that wind. Now, if you're fishing down by the lake, by the mouth, be prepared to be bundled up pretty much the whole time because it is windy down there and it can get nasty and you can have lake effect snow there that you don't even have a mile inland. So it can be a big difference the closer you are to the lake. And then second biggest part of that to deal with the wind and the cold, having the appropriate gear and clothing. Whether you hunt, whether you fish over the years, especially for winter fishermen, you build up this system of layers that, again, just like we've alluded to, it's just a little different up there. There's different elements where when we're winter fishing for trout, we're moving a lot more. And we're not even in that water nearly as much. There's definitely times we are, but there's a lot of times we are not. Steelhead, there's a lot of times you're in thigh, waist deep, 36 degree, 38 degree water. It doesn't matter. It's cold. And you don't move for an hour. And having those appropriate layers under your waders, but still being breathable, still having that gear, being able to breathe so you can keep producing heat through your body is also critical too. There's been plenty of times early on where I hadn't fully dialed in being able to let my feet breathe or move my toes and certain things like that, where you learn the hard way that your feet can freeze up if you don't have that breathability.
I underprepared for that. I wasn't prepared for that at all.
I think we all do. That's kind of the point of this episode, right? You hunted ducks and stuff like that?
Yep. Yeah. I was a
Yes,
water
exactly.
hunter.
But my point is, you've done cold things. We've all been snowboarding and skiing. We've been hunting. It's just different. It's just colder. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
colder up there. It is. So, what's your system? Let's get into that detail. So, as you're laying out your clothing, you're prepping your layers for the trip. What's your system for your actual layering up? And then, how many options are you bringing, or how many backups are you bringing? Because I think that makes a big difference.
Oh, and it's obviously evolved over how long I've been doing it. My first system was not very dialed in. I didn't account having a jacket that was windproof or having an appropriate amount of socks or extra socks. I pretty much just put a bunch of Under Armour on and then layered up in 50 layers. My core was warm, but then my feet, I didn't really pay attention to my feet, and that's what got me. Now I make sure I have something for everything. I'd rather take more than not have it. You know me, I'm minimalist in everything I do. I put very little effort into a lot of this stuff, but up there I have evolved more because you sweat in your socks, right? So even if you have warm socks, you have wool socks, you can have the warmest socks in the market. We walk miles, we're sweating in them. While they don't seem wet, when you take them off, a lot of times just from sweating and condensation in your waders, those socks get wet. And depending on what you have in your hotel or whatever you're doing to dry them off, instead of hoping that they're dry in the morning, right? Having plenty of extra pairs of those socks and base socks so that you're not putting on potentially damp stuff in the morning, making sure that we flip our waders inside out, like even small little details like that, so we can get all that inside condensation dried out. But again, my layering system, now I bring a Wooby jacket, goose down, which really cuts the wind. I don't feel the wind at all in my goose down jacket.
Is that like a puffy?
Yeah, like a puffy jacket, yeah.
And they're so light and packable, right?
They're so light and packable, and if you need to take it off, you can roll it up into a little tiny ball and stuff it in your sling pack. It breaks down very easily. I bring a rain jacket now. I didn't bring one before. I'd have some waterproof-ish stuff, but now I have like an actual raincoat. And the other one is like spats, long spandex leggings. I wear those as my base. And I don't layer up too much on my legs. My legs stay pretty good. I'll do the leggings and then just usually a pair of sweatpants. I don't go 50 layers or anything. I just pack my warm stuff, and if I don't need it, I don't need it. I'll err on the side of layering up before we go out, preparing for the worst. And the worst I have to do is take some stuff off because I'm too hot. Then I'd rather that than be too cold and not have it. If you think you might need it, take it. Even if you don't think. If the weather could look great, it's going to be sunny and 60. I'm still taking all that stuff because it can change like that. So as far as staying warm, err on the side of taking more stuff. Is your system kind of the same?
Yeah, it is. So let's break it down because I'll go even a little bit more detailed, but same concept. A couple things that you brought up, the evolution of some of those little things that make a difference. You started with your feet. Feet, I agree. The most important thing up there, and it's one of the most underrated until you're up there, at least for the way we're doing it. Some of you all are going out for 3-4 hours, you're doing your thing, and we're talking about 10, 11, 12-hour days. But the first year or two, a couple things that I struggled with my feet. It was a combination of my boots being slightly too small and then wearing too many socks. So I was going the opposite of you, but I was having the same results. I was going like 3 layers of socks. And again, my boots were at that time even smaller. So my toes could not move. And when your toes can't move, they have no circulation. You lose that blood flow. And then you're in that water for so long. They're so frozen and you're not moving. And even after walking, it would take forever for them to thaw out. So half size up on the boots and then actually went down in layers in socks. I have a system that seems to work. I go 2 layers of socks, but my first layer is very thin and they're both merino wool. I love the fast wicking wool. I love the breathability of it. I think, especially merino because of how thin it can be and it's comfy too. Everything I wear now is wool basically or merino wool, but it's a very thin layer. And like you said, that's my moisture wicking. So you talked about your feet sweating and they do. They sweat a ton up there. You don't realize it because it's 38 degrees out, but your feet, your legs, when you take your waders off, your sweatpants are damp, your socks are damp, and they're not leaking. It's sweat, it's condensation. So I like a thin layer and then a thicker merino wool for my feet, and I've had much more success with that. Again, being able to move my feet, less layers, moisture wicking. And then moving up the line, my pants, I'm like you, I usually do one base layer. That's like a merino wool blend. If it's super dead of winter, I'll double up my base layer. But then it's just a pair of sweatpants, something over top, flexible. I want to be able to move, and sweatpants are comfy and easy. And then up top, it's usually two base layers, another moisture wicking layer, and then a thicker merino wool, and then whatever I need on top of that. But always my puffy. Puffy's a game changer. Packable, breathable, but also wind protectant. I guess they're not that breathable, but they block the wind. They're extremely warm, extremely light, and packable. It's one of the best things for any outdoorsman to have in the winter.
You don't want to have this big thick layer on and you can't move very well.
Yeah, you want to be able to move, breathe, and be flexible. And to your point, I think we all used to go like bigger hoodies and stuff as base layers. They're comfy and warm, but they are bulky. And you try to then put your waders over them or tuck them in your waders, very difficult. That puffy is like wearing nothing, but wearing everything at the same time. And then you got into the significance of a quality rain jacket. For wind, we wear them all the time just for wind, right? It's a great wind deterrent. It's that outer shell. But it took me a while and it took a trip to get absolutely dumped on the whole weekend where my first rain jacket was not up to par. It was not good enough. I was wet within an hour every day, and you didn't realize it until you get rained on constantly. Spent the money, got a much better rain jacket. One of the best purchases. Staying dry out there is key. Staying warm in turn because you're dry. So those things have been game changers. Simple things, but honestly, I think one of the harder things was figuring out less is more. Like, I think a lot of people over layer and you get, like we said, stiff and immobile, and that leads to bigger problems. All right, so we'll talk about studs here in a second. The other significant thing, you need a good pair of waders. Make sure you check your holes. If you haven't put your waders on since spring, please double check and make sure you don't have a leak. We've all been there, but you don't want to be up there when you have a leak. And that brings me to my next point, Aqua Seal. Anyone out there listening, if you haven't heard of it, AquaSeal can be fast drying. It's flexy, it's waterproof. Flexibility is very, very important with waterproof glue. So you can patch your waders. You can even get a patch kit. I always take up both with my gear. I literally just got a fresh tube of AquaSeal in the mail today, and I'm putting it in my gear to make sure I have it. But one of those little tidbits to put in your storage is grab some AquaSeal. You don't want leaky waders.
I usually just count on you and Stump to have all that stuff because you guys have everything. So if I don't have it, maybe that's why I go so minimalist because you guys have so much stuff. That's in the back of my head. Like, well, if I don't have it, somebody's going to have it.
That's a great point.
Somebody's going to have it. So I'll.
You know me and Stump are going to have it, especially. There
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go, everyone out there. I like to give PSAs seem to be a common thing in these episodes now. Just go with a friend who packs everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't buy your own stuff. Go with somebody who has all the stuff.
And luckily, you have two of them.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good way to look at it, though, because you do know that one of us is going to have something if you are in a pinch. So if you have a crew and you're with the crew that is 10 plus years deep into this, then someone's always going to have something.
So don't be like me. Prepare.
Yeah, don't be like Zack until you're into it for a while.
Yeah.
What about studs, Zack? What do you think? Make or break, no go? You think studs work up there?
So I'll say this. I've done both. The first time we went, you told me about it. So make sure you have studs. And
Okay.
I did. And then I think as I kept going, there were just years or trips where I just didn't think about it. I didn't stud them. And I was still fine. And I haven't fallen too much, I don't think. I don't think I've fallen in or anything. But I wear rubber all the time. I don't stud my boots ever. I guess I get a little cocky and think I can wade in anything. But
Sure.
you should. You should have studs up there. Like you said, that slate bottom, especially when it gets really cold, it can be slick. And again, we've witnessed our friends fall in because they didn't have studs.
Yes, we have.
You should always have them up there, at least. Again, it's one of those things you'd rather have them than not have them. Even if you're great weight ability and you're very cautious where you step, know your limitations, know who you are. If you're a clumsy guy, put some studs on your boots.
Yeah, man. I'm semi clumsy. Dave is somewhat clumsy, especially up there. And I'm going to tell a story about Dave here in a second when we talk about falling in or getting wet. But yeah, know yourself, know your abilities. But even so, it is extremely slippery up there. So you got slate bottom creeks, and then you put snow on them, put ice on them, freezing water on them. It's just slick, extremely slick. We're used to some slicker streams in Pennsylvania. This is way more challenging, but it's foreign water. You don't know these streams. You don't know where you're stepping. You don't know them like the back of your hand, like we do with some of our waters, like you do with your home water. And so you kind of have it almost memorized. You could walk it blindfolded, right? So this is a lot of new stuff. So having those studs in your boots, ready to go, locked in there, for me, it makes a big difference. Our buddy, talking about this story, our buddy Dave, first year I took him up, I told him for weeks what I suggest you should wear. And even then, I didn't know that well what I was doing for layers. Studs was something, that was passed down to me from Beaver and Brett, and it was something that's always been a sticking point. And short story, he risked it. He went up there, no studs. It was a double-edged sword because that first hour we did a lot of walking, icy water on the slate bottoms, and he was working 2-3 times harder than we were, and could not keep up. So that's the other thing is with studs, I'm very confident on that water. We can truck through that pretty quickly. We can cross a stream pretty confidently. He didn't have that confidence with the footing to go where we were going. So he was working twice as hard. He was slipping constantly. And sure enough, within that first hour, he slipped, fell, dunked his whole hat in the water, and then forgot he dunked his hat in the water and then put it on his head. So then his head was was wet and frozen. Then he's like dripping water. It's pitch dark. We still had our headlamps on. We walked for a mile or so to not see any fish and then turned around, and he did all this on his first trip and he made it twice as hard. And it's a good story to tell, but it put a bad taste in his mouth because of that experience. So you don't want to be unsure footed. It just makes it harder and you don't want to deal with it. Now, if you're parking and walking to the bank and taking a seat, maybe you don't need studs. But if you're doing some walking and wading and planning on searching your water that you're going to, put studs on your boots. I even think a hiking pole or a trekking pole, a wading staff, whatever you want to call it, I think that can be really helpful up there. I have one. I don't use it that much in general, but I think I'm going to start using it up there more, especially in deeper winter, hiking through snow if we have to, or just that third leg of stability. So that's another suggestion. Our buddy Stump always has a staff. He uses it a lot regularly, and he does move around much better.
I still haven't. I still haven't set my pride aside to buy one of those yet. I'm in my head. I'm like, I'm too young to be walking around with one of those yet. I haven't broken down and gotten one. I see situations where if I had one, it'd have made it a little easier. But I'm still prideful, and I'm just I don't need that. I'll truck right through that stuff. It's not far off. I can say I don't move like I used to, so it's not far off.
I was going to say, me and Stump, I think the day you do get that staff, that waiting staff, I think that'll be a day for the calendar. We're going to write that one down because I'm with you. I don't expect you to get one anytime soon.
No, no.
You know what I did? I got it for a waiting staff, but I got a set of hiking poles off Amazon and use them, and then I use them for hiking. So, and if you get a waiting staff, do not buy a normal waiting staff. They're like $120. Get a set of trekking poles on Amazon for 20-30 bucks, and they're phenomenal. But that's what I did. So it's twofold. We go hiking a lot, so I use them a lot. But yeah, if the day you get one, I think me and Stump are going to make a note of that. Like it's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, it could definitely help me when we're on the way out after hiking miles down into something and we hike down into a gorge and then we're on the way
Yes.
back up. You're tired, you're maybe a
Mhm.
little dehydrated, you're just wore out and then having to go up a steep grade and then just pushing on your thighs like there's been times I wish I had one, it definitely could have helped and can help in that instance.
Those walks out are rough.
Yeah.
You've put in so many miles in that day. We go sun up to sundown. We're all over those streams. And then some of those streams, I know it's not a half mile out, but it feels like a half mile straight up.
Yeah.
It's not that long. It's maybe a couple hundred yards, if that.
It seems longer at 5 p.m. than it did at 5 a.m. At 5 a.m., you're all excited, written down that thing. You're like, man, we got here quick. And then you look up at it, wow, all right. And I think a big one to touch on shortly there, just hydration. I always have electrolytes on me. So have plenty of water, but also I carry electrolyte powder with me and I drink one or two of those throughout the day. We're out there all day, so we have sandwiches and snacks and pack plenty of food. But even more importantly than that, I get dehydrated quickly from all the walking we're doing, you're sweating and all that stuff. You can build your energy back up quicker by staying hydrated. Because it's a bad feeling to feel a little bit woozy. When you're dehydrated, you just don't feel right. And then you add on cold and you add on all that other stuff. I think staying hydrated, it gets overlooked. I think the first couple trips I didn't really pack electrolytes, and even from drinking water throughout the day, you just burn all that stuff from sweating, so I was dragging by the end. But I have noticed a huge difference in supplementing my electrolytes in there and staying hydrated. And I'm just big on staying hydrated now, period. So carry something, liquid IV, whatever it is. Carry an electrolyte powder on you.
I don't even know if I knew you did that, but that's a great call. To your point, I don't do that, y'all. That's something I'm going to do on this trip. I usually drink Gatorades or something like that.
If you don't have it, I will have it.
All right, good. Sounds good. So just to get a little detail on that, when you say powder, is that this powder that you're like opening up a water bottle and dumping it in?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
I go back and forth, but liquid IV is one that everybody should know and you can find at Walmart. I have gotten jugs of it, but electrolyte powder is what I take up there. Easy to pack in, rip it open, pour it into your 16 ounces of water, or I'll pour 2 of them into my big jug and just drink that throughout the day. And then when that's gone, just drink water on top of it. Just like weight cutting our whole lives and being wrestlers, being dehydrated sucks, man. I don't know if it left trauma on you, but to me, I don't like it from cutting weight and being dehydrated. So I can tell very quickly when I'm getting a little bit dehydrated. So my body wants that stuff.
Dude, I get like a headache. I get headaches quick.
I just start getting shaky, jittery. I just don't feel right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the powder is a great call. Hydration is an underrated topic. Again, if you're doing long days out there, pack more water than anything. I think we'll get into a little bit more discussion a little bit later in this episode, or if we do a part 2 here about like prepping for food and stuff like that. But a lot of times we'll have cases of water in the truck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then anytime we are back, we are reloading and refilling. And if we know we're going to be out there for all day, we're packing obnoxious amounts of water and drinking it and lightening your load when you're out there. So it's a win-win.
Leave room for 1 or 2 beers. 1 or 2 beers.
That's right. So here's a little hack. This is something I learned over the last 2 years. We like a beer or two out there, to celebrate being with the boys, doing our thing, catching steel. And here's what you do. You get like a Yeti or an Arctic, the Colsters, the koozies, 12 ounce, 16 ounce, whatever you prefer. And you put your beer in that, seal it up, and then put it in your pouch or your bag. It keeps it extra cold all day. So it's almost like a little mini refrigerator right on your beer. And what I do if we take 2, I put the one in there for like 4 or 5 hours later. I have the other one not in one, so I'll drink that earlier. And then that one stays cold all day. It's awesome. It's like one of the few times we drink on the stream, right? And we're not drinking. We're having a celebratory beer of like 11-hour days. But it is enjoyable to have a cold beer up there in the middle of the Steelhead
Whether
stream.
you're celebrating a nice steelhead or we're drinking our sorrows away, just having one to.
Yeah. Either way, they go down quick and yeah, we've had both reasons to drink beers up there.
Yeah.
So on that topic with like carrying water and packing lunches and all that. So a couple things I want to bring up and then get into storage, right? Because you just made a purchase and I want you to kind of dive into that mentality. But a couple things I wanted to bring up real quick, just a couple little cheat codes that I found to put with your gear out there. When you're on the stream, I'm backtracking, but have extra clothes, have a change of clothes in the truck. So if you do get wet on the stream or if you go in, you just go back to the truck and you can change. Dave fell in. Oh my goodness. That's a whole story in itself. But Dave fell in last year. December trip, freezing cold. Didn't have a picture pair of clothes. Had to go back to the hotel. It was a whole ordeal. So that's one thing. Have your layers in the truck or extra clothes in the vehicle waiting for you in case something happens and you need them in a pinch. Little tips and tricks, things to take out there with you that I've found are helpful. Not game changers. You don't need them, but I like it. Mentioned AquaSeal. I don't really take that on the stream with me. That's more in my bin in the truck as well with my stuff. A hand towel. When you put your hands, one just fishing and they're out in the freezing cold, we usually use like fingerless gloves. I like wool. If we're talking about layers and gear, I do like fingerless wool gloves. But anyway, your fingers are getting cold either way. You're wearing gloves or not wearing gloves, or you have part of your hand exposed. And then you catch a steelhead and you're lifting it out of the net or you're releasing it into the water, whatever it is. Your hands are freezing from dipping your hands in that water. Having a hand towel in your waders, in your pack, game changer. And not only that, here's my extra little nugget. Get a golf towel. They have the little carabiner ring in it. Comes with a carabiner. You can carabine it right to your waders. I carabine mine right to my wader strap, and then I tuck it in my waders. Then I don't ever have to think about it. I dry my hands, and if I dropped it, it's not going anywhere. It's attached to my body. Golf towel, game changer. Extra zip ties, or zip ties in general. Throw a couple zip ties in your gear. You could blow out a boot. your net could rip or break. Having some zip ties can really help you out there. Dave's actually the one that put me on that, so kudos to Dave. Dave always has zip ties. Ever since then, I've carried a few. I like to have some duct tape, not in my fishing pack, but in your gear. Again, similar to the Aqua Seal, the patching. You just never know. So that's kind of the things that popped into my head. Any things that you take out there, Zach, that you've noticed that have helped you?
I mean, nothing as cool as that. I don't have any cool stuff
I'm pretty cool, so
because I don't do either. I don't ever wear gloves. I'm not a sticky bandit guy. I don't wear the fingerless gloves. So,
that's a
yeah,
great
I'm
one.
not part of the sticky bandits, but
I don't like wearing gloves, but sometimes I
I'm
need
weird,
to.
dude. My hands stay fine. I don't know what it is. My hands are always fine. And they will be cold. Obviously, you stick your hand in cold water, it's going to be cold. Like my feet are different. My hands warm up pretty quick, and I can be out in the elements with my hands, and it doesn't really bug me. As far as like things I carry, honestly, man, I don't think I have anything like cool or any tips or tricks. You know what I mean?
I got a good one. Some toilet paper.
Dude, again, something I always need but never have, but somebody always has.
I have to always have it.
Yeah, yeah.
We won't go down that road, but
You mix tobacco, McDonald's, coffee, you start mixing those things. Nature can call on the stream at any time. The bubbles can appear at any point. So you might not have a choice in the matter. You don't want to end up with shardy waders on Spring Creek. You don't want to end up there. You don't you don't
we've seen,
you don't want to end up there. So
we've seen
that's a
it,
big
haven't
tip.
we, Zach? We
Yeah, I've experienced it. Yeah. Taking your socks off to clean yourself off. And yeah, I've done it. Yeah, so having that definitely is a game changer. I mean, if you're a fisherman for any extended time, you should know better.
I forgot about you using your sock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not a
But
good look.
there's another reason to wear two pairs of socks.
Yeah, there you have it. You don't have
Yeah.
TP. You have two sets of socks.
All right. So, not a gloves man. I kind of knew that. I don't like wearing gloves, but like I said, I have like the Sims fingerless wools. You can get off-brand ones. I do like them when it is super cold, but I always take them off when I'm netting a fish or whatever. But what about a beanie? Because we like our ball caps.
Yeah, I've kind of evolved mine into now I wear the beanie with the brim on it, so I get best of both worlds because I don't like stretching my beanie over my hat. It's just something I don't like doing.
I don't like doing that either.
I wear a beanie that has a brim built into it, just a little extra protection from the sun. Because another thing I forget all the time, sunglasses. I always forget them. Always. And up there, especially if it is bright blue sky day, if there is snow on the ground, I've had brutal days up there where I'm blind at the end of the day because I don't have a good pair of sunglasses.
I feel naked without sunglasses anytime I'm fishing, but especially up there. For the reasons you just said, and just searching for bodies or shapes, they make a big difference. Pretty much everyone figures out that polarized glasses are a game changer. And to your point, I'll probably have two or three pairs with me. If you forget, I'll have a pair. We have our fishing ball caps, right? We all do. We have our favorite fishing hats. I wear that as long as I can. And then when we get into the heart of winter, really cold, I switch over to my beanie. But I hold out as long as I can.
Yep. And I take a couple extra of those too, just in case something dumb happens.
Honestly, I prefer even going ball cap and then putting my like base layer hood up and just covering my ears because that's all I really care about is my ears. So here we go. We talked about taking extra water and upgrades in materials and things you're taking out there with you. You just upgraded. Tell me what you got. Why'd you go that way? What was the reason behind it?
Yeah, so I had a sling pack before. I used the waterproof sling pack. We all have them, the Thunderhead sling pack, and it was able to carry a lot of stuff in it, but not as much as your backpack. Like you have the fish pond backpack that's bigger, and you can carry a lot of your stuff in there. So I recently got off the sling pack. Just having all that weight on one side of my shoulders really bugs me. And after 10, 12 hour days, comfortability is a big thing. So I recently just went to a waist pack. I like carrying a majority of my weight on my waist. I can manage it better. I don't get as fatigued with it on. And now, since I'm going to that, I lost a lot of storage ability because of only wearing that. So I
Mm-hmm.
recently just bought a waterproof, like cooler backpack. I think it's like, I forget how many quarts it is or gallon. I don't know what it's big.
Probably liters, right?
Yeah. So I didn't want to go the expensive route of buying the backpack because I'm only going to use that for steelheading, right? You guys use that all the time.
I have my reasons.
Exactly. But for me, I'm just not going to carry it all the time. So I'm like, do I want to spend $300-400 on a submersible backpack? Went on Amazon. I
Mm-hmm.
found a a submersible backpack, and it's just as big as yours. And I'll carry that in addition to my waist pack. Everything I need for fishing will be there. And then everything else, I need to carry an extra jacket, my food, my snacks, my water. This can carry a lot of stuff in it, and it's both shoulders. It's more balanced.
Yep, there you go.
Instead of maybe all of us trying to jam our sandwiches inside of our sling packs or backpacks mixed in with all of our fly gear, I said, I'll just be the snack guy. I'll have the snack pack. We'll put it all on my back. We always carry little snacks and stuff in our own packs, but like our sandwiches and stuff, it can all just go in there, and it'll make things a lot easier.
And I think one of the things that it's not the end of the world, but the waterproof or submersible waterproof is just an added bonus, right? And we can talk about that with your hip pack, with the sling packs we all used to rock, with my backpack. It's one of those, as we're talking about gear and stuff, it's one of those conveniences. When you don't have to think about your gear getting wet, you just walk into the water and you just fish. It's awesome, because there's been plenty of times where it's either happened to us individually or you've seen it happen to someone. They walk in and they forgot, and their sling pack or their hip pack goes in too deep, and now all their gear's wet. And it sucks. It's an inconvenience. I love the waterproof, and then if it's raining, right, you don't have to worry about your gear getting wet. It's just so convenient. Can they cost more money? Yes. Do they have to? No. You can get quality gear inexpensively. And especially, like you said, you're only using it for certain things in certain times. So you might, use it 4 or 5 times a year outside of a couple steelhead trips. So no reason to even splurge that far on it. But the extra storage for your food, your water, extra clothing if you want, it makes it easier. When you said the shoulder straps, as much as we love the sling packs, for a 5-hour, 6-hour fishing trip, the sling packs were awesome when we were trout fishing. There's just something about them that's very convenient. But then you try to do that on a steelhead trip, or if you do a trout trip and you're going for 10 plus hours, and it's always to the one side. I know some can flip sides, whatever. The knots you get, the pain you get, and it builds up over time. At least it did for me. It wasn't like a one and done thing. I started getting knots like more permanently. And storage is tight. Again, if you're out there, you got all your fly boxes, and then you try to throw 2 sandwiches in there, and then you try to throw in 4 waters. It's not possible. So you have all this extra room, you have more comfort. The reason I now fish with my backpack, trout fishing and everything, and I know it's overkill for trout, and I really like the hip packs that you guys rock. I think that's going to be my next move eventually. But my shoulder blades get so messed up, both of them, that I need that balance. That backpack just helps. So I don't mess with it. So once I switched to the backpack steelhead fishing, and I noticed I had a lot less shoulder pain on both sides and or back pain, that's why I do it trout fishing. So I keep using it. It treats me well. And I never have to worry about running out of room to put stuff in it.
And again, we're kind of extreme, right? We're talking about fishing 10, 12-hour days. If you're just getting into it, you're probably not going to be out there that long unless you're going with a crew that fishes that long. If somebody else new were to join our crew, right, we're going to prepare it like this is the things you're going to need, because if you do not have it, you're going to have a rough time, because we are out there all day. We're not fishing 2 feet from the truck and then walk back when we're thirsty or when we're hungry. We're eating on the stream, unless it just times up right that we're leaving a spot and we're just like, all right, we'll just eat at the truck.
Yeah, good point. Usually, if we're eating at the truck or whatever, it's because we're getting ready to drive somewhere else. And you said it. A lot of you most likely are not out there to do these long days, but some of you I'm sure are. That's the type of trout fisherman you are, and it's a natural progression. We are the extreme, and these are tougher conditions, tougher scenarios, but we're setting you up for everything. So if you have this stuff, you're set for any condition either way. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up part 1 of our steelhead trip planning and prep. We've covered the essentials to keep you warm, dry, and comfortable on the water, from checking flows and temps to gearing up with the right layers, traction, and on-the-water storage. In our next episode, we're going to keep the momentum going and dive into part 2. We'll shift gears to focus on the other side of prep, your rods, reels, flies, and some of the pre-trip planning and rituals that get us fired up for the first cast of steel season. Until then, keep an eye on those gauges, maybe tie a few flies, and get ready, because it's almost go time. We hope you enjoy some time on the water, and we'll see you all in a few weeks. Thanks, everyone.